Well, hello. Today I have Ed Demasi, and he is a wizard. I I met my friend recently, and we met in Newton, North Carolina, at a retreat. And he's really an amazing person and has a unique perspective. And so today we really wanted to focus in on the ego, the identity, and maybe help people create a practice that may help them release some of their attachments to judgment, suffering, and fear-based beliefs. So
Hmm.
welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tammy. I'm really pleased and happy to be here and more pleased and happy to know you.
Yes, I'm very grateful for my friends, and I just love having conversations about topics like this because um, we talked a few weeks ago, and we were talking, about specifically young practices. And so since then, I've just like studied about that. And the topic of the ego has come up a lot. So share with me a little bit about your personal journey with the ego and these ideas.
Okay. Well, I think the basic definition of ego we should probably let everyone know first because it can be really confusing for someone who's just starting the path of even understanding their own thoughts and how those thoughts are and identity are affecting their lives. So the ego represents the conscious mind as it comprises the thoughts, memories, and emotions uh, that a person is aware of. It's not the unconscious mind yet. There is seems to be some automatic responses within ego. Um, and my own my first dipping my toe in the water the first time, which I didn't even realize had anything to do with ego. I think I was around 40 years old and I was in marriage therapy. And the therapists were my wife and I were arguing about who's right and who's wrong. And and we were each trying to convince each other of our own perspective. And we didn't even realize at the time that people had different perspectives. It's like, no, what I see, think, hear, feel, and act on is the right thing. And yours, if it's not the same as mine or as mine, is wrong. And so the therapist told us a little story that uh, uh, illustrated how people's perspectives are different in the same room with the same thing going on and so forth. So that opened my mind quite a bit and it was very relieving because I was able to stop trying to convince everybody how right I was and just get curious about, oh, okay, so I see this and you see that. Isn't that interesting?
Uh,
Um, and then of course it's not an instant thing like like it's a light bulb going off, but the practice is interesting in that you can get in a conversation and still have that ego come out with ferocity. No, that's not the way it is.
that's right.
And so I learned about perspectives, and I felt the freedom to explore different perspectives and become curious about life more and about other people from that.
Mm. Well, that's
That
really
was my
good.
first step.
And let me just say that you know, if we'll go back to Jung's view on psychology and psychotherapy, what he decided was that, the reason psychotherapy, one of the reasons psychotherapy works so well is that you bond with other people and you learn new things. But it's a it's a very natural process. So you're going to evolve and change whether you go to a coach or a psychotherapist or not. But you can understand more quickly by exploring the idea of the ego. And, for me, I'll say, he talks about like polarity a little bit. Like you have the dark thoughts and the light thoughts. And the ego, for me, the way I kind of came to understand it was like all the parts of your thinking process. So you have a creative, vast mind, but it's kind of different parts. And it's like different parts of you. And an example of that would be the fun seeker, the skeptic. Like it's lots of different parts of your ego, and that forms the identity. And you do this at a very early age, when you're really young. So you might form the belief that my way is the only way and I'm right. And but coming to understand that those are all parts of you, and you just view them in a neutral way, and that way you begin to lessen or diminish it. You may have learned, you may have this like urge to fight to be right,
Right.
or urge to judge. You've got a judgmental part, and it's a thinking or an intellectual process. And so, therapy is very good. That's why coaching, sometimes we just can't see that hidden, that is kind of hidden from us. And then something brings it to the light. And we begin to shift those thoughts, or just to notice when you're thinking them, and question them. Like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Both my
exactly.
both my wife and I both have this different perspective, but we're both right. But I don't need her to view everything from my perspective. And
Right.
and so it just creates changes. And I mean, that's kind of how I see it now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I love what you were talking about. I think you brought up individuation, process of
Right.
individuation in there. You brought up archetypes and the use of archetypes and the intentional use of archetypes, which is something I'm playing with now. And I I think so. Both of those things I've been recently exploring, not playing with, but exploring individuation, the process of uh, balancing our inner world with our outer world. That to put it simply, it is taking all that we know of ourselves with our thoughts of who we are and who we project ourselves to be out in the world. That is when in balance, when those two are in balance and aligned with our true authentic self, we are more at peace and we're more content with life. When we have created a whole persona that we have to hold up, and like a monkey on our back, that is not a uh, an authentic persona, that is more created by ego, by what we think and um, what our conditioning has brought us to.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
when we're working with that kind of consciousness, we're really projecting something fake to the world, and it's not comfortable. And so we feel anxious. We're always chasing after things, chasing after love, or chasing after material goods, or chasing after being liked on Facebook, for instance.
I didn't get enough likes today. I'm really sad.
You didn't get enough likes. I'm sorry.
No,
I'll go on there later and give you a few.
no, I'm just kidding.
I
But
know you are.
you know
I
that
know you
it's
are.
true.
But how this plays in with archetypes is very interesting to me, because the theory that um that I'm or the understanding that I'm coming up with is that uh you can discover through this journey of self-discovery, we can discover our archetypes and what our natural, instinctual, authentic archetypes are: the lover, the fun seeker, the serious businessman, the all of that. And instead of trying to make ourselves be one thing that fits all, like a one size fits all shoe, um, we can, in balance, we can bring out a particular archetype when it's needed. Like
Mm.
you were talking, I think you mentioned the fire, that fire is, some people see fire as destructive. And yes, it is, but it's also renewal.
Yeah.
And um, and I recently had an interaction with a group that I belong to, where I brought the fire out, and
Chaos.
everybody got scared and angry and fearful and all of that. And what they don't see is what's coming down the road.
Right.
And so it was a choice to bring that fire out as an archetype,
Yeah.
and to bring the warrior out and say things need to change,
Yes.
and
And
then let
that's one of your wizard abilities. We
uh,
had a long talk
uh-oh.
about that. And it's funny because I was talking about this. I had a fire in my backyard. It was like, okay, I had to really take a deep breath and say, why is this happening for me? But everything's grown back green and beautiful now. And
Yeah.
but so we bring out that fire. Sometimes we fight against what's happening, but that's just a natural process, and in
Yeah.
alchemy, that's like stage one.
Hmm.
Something's got to change, a life event or some type of conflict occurs. That's like stage one. And something needs to change. And we see that all the time in life.
Hmm.
It can be the element of fire, or it can be, politics is a good example. There's
Hmm.
chaos, there's polarization, one side against the other, and I'm right and you're wrong. And um, the idea is that eventually something will come out of that that's unique and new, but the separation has to move to a oneness. So, you know,
Hmm.
that these events happen for a reason. And that
Yeah.
reason is unknown to us. But the inspiration to make a change can create chaos, or you can kind of just go with the flow like water. And
Mhm.
that's,
And
that's
just
a,
wait for it to change on
well,
its own.
no, I'm saying you still need to take those inspired actions, but
Sure.
then you wait and you take a breath and say, this is interesting, and allow the answers to come through, with air. Or, and when I say air, I'm saying it's a natural process, like the seasons. We have winter, we have summer and it's hot, and then we have spring when it's
Yes.
kind of nice and things are blossoming. So, what comes after the heat is usually, the fall, and there's a harvest. So you can think of it in terms like that too. Um,
I agree. The flow, I love that you brought up flow, because sometimes the inspiration is inaction, is to just let it be. Uh, when you see something that may need to change, sometimes we just like I said, the inspiration is inaction. Take no action and just wait till we're downriver a little bit,
yeah, let's let
and there'll
go,
be a pull.
surrender.
Yeah,
And,
surrender.
we
Yeah.
talked about, I practice yoga, and all of the poses in yoga are to get you into balance, to breathe, to go with the flow of life, and to strength. There's times when you want to, strengthen and uh, exercise or walk. And that is, that's the practice of yoga. So it is a meditative practice too. So when you're doing the yoga poses, you're like we do balance and we do stretching. Sometimes we have to stretch ourselves and try new things. And we need to be bold and strong. And sometimes we just need to, at the end of each practice, we just relax and breathe and, allow life to unfold. So, um, breath work, which Jung will practice breath work. And he, another practice that I really loved, and I was doing it already, but it's also part of my magical practice, is dream journaling. So when
Mm.
you dream journal, what is happening when you sleep is you're totally relaxed and your mind is working out issues, or you're allowing your unconscious mind and your conscious mind to kind of merge and work out problems. So I his the young practice is to write down your dreams, and I would suggest early in the morning, because usually you're not going to remember your dreams more than a day or two, and you can look for recurrent patterns and archetypes,
Mm.
and look for but then you write, what you saw and what your interpretation of this means. And I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, I don't think I dreamed last night, but I dream almost every night, and I remember it early in the morning. And I dreamed I was in Florida with some friends, and I went on a walk, and it seemed like I was kind of, yeah, I was with a big group of people. So I got away from the big group of people, and I was just with my friend, and we were walking, and we saw a flower, and it was a rose, but it was white petals, and it had a red center, but a bee came out of it and turned into a fairy. And I was spraying water on it with my finger. Well, I can't do that. But anyway, it was a cool dream. And so what what I sat down and said, well, what does the bee symbolize? And what does the fairy? And she was changing in the, her image was shifting and changing. And I think because I was doing all this ego work, I was thinking that what that really meant to me was my identity is changeable. Like I have this identity now that I didn't have when I was 20 or 30 or 40. I have a different identity. Like our identity changes. And what does the fairy mean? Of and the symbol of the flower blooming, that kind of symbolized the flower of life, like you're blossoming and blooming. I enjoy being with friends, but I also enjoy some time alone or just talking with one person. So there was a lot of symbology in it. And what one of his practices was the dream journaling. So and if you do this, you will see a pattern over time. Like you'll have the same recurrent dream or similar dreams with similar themes. And the archetypes, he really liked Mercury. That was his archetype. So he was a strong and powerful person. And but colors, symbols, anything you see or feel or sense. So you write all those things down. And, I was feeling joy and feeling, I was happy in the dream. So it wasn't a dark dream, but, it also, like, what does this mean? So you go deep into that. So his practice of going inward and really analyzing what your dreams meant. That was, I didn't really understand even why I was doing it. And I don't think I was doing it the way he does it until recently. But, it was write down your dreams every day. So I got that message of, I don't know, I've had it several times. It's one thing that it can be profound because you can explore places and things in your dreams, and it's kind of freedom. And some other dreams, like I dreamed I was flying around the house one time. And I mean, that's happened more than one. Like I can fly. Well, I can't fly, but it would be fun to fly.
Well, you can fly in your dreams for sure.
I know.
Yeah, that's so much fun.
Yeah. So and we'll go into journaling. So do you have a journaling practice, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. I do.
And
And I journal all the time. I'm constantly in my journal daily, not constantly all day, but daily practice of journaling. And sometimes I forget. Sometimes I'll go uh, a week or two without journaling, and my state of mind will be different. I'll have more anxiety. Not that I have a lot of anxiety, but I notice anxiety because I'm pretty much at peace if I keep journaling and I do my meditations and um, stay true to myself and not let people and circumstances pull me out of that into being triggered, then I'm generally content and happy. So journaling for me is inquiry, self-inquiry. It's working out tough problems that maybe you have a relationship issue or a question with anyone, not just intimate relationships, but with anyone. Perhaps something somebody did triggered you or triggered me, and I am curious about that. Why did I feel triggered by that? And so I'll journal about that. Um, can I share a meditation recently that I did that kind of
Sure, you
applies here?
can share anything.
Um, there's an app that I started using a few months ago. It's called Waking Up. It's created by a guy named Sam Harris. He's a neuroscientist who has spent over 2 years total in silent meditation retreats when he was younger, and he still does it. But he's accumulated. Can you imagine over 2 years of his life, like 5% of his life, he's been in silent meditation. Can you imagine that? I have not done it, but I'm going to do it. At any rate, this is about observing the world as it is, because I think we're talking about ego and ego dissolution. I think for ego dissolution, there are several important stages that I've gone through. Control is an illusion, and reach for control and give away choice. If you're trying to control the outside conditions of your world, that's an egocentric place to be, because you think about it, you can tell somebody to jump off a bridge a thousand times, and if they don't want to do it, you're going to have to either throw them off or whatever. They're not going to do it on their own. You can't force outside conditions to change, no matter how much you want it, and so it's a waste of time. And so observing the world as it is, being present to that instead of present to what you want it to be. So this meditation that I did just the other day was amazing. It brought amazing insight. It's a walking meditation in public. And so you walk, you're walking through public, and at first your focus is on observing that what is around you, and not thinking about it, just observing it. And then imagining or that everything is coming toward you instead of you moving toward it. And then it's so the first step is observing that you're moving through space as if you're moving toward things. And then the next step is imagining that things are moving toward you. And then the next most interesting step is observing without judgment, observing everything in your field, people, places. Like you might be walking through space and you see a dumpster and go, oh, that's ugly. You see a person, you go, oh, how could they dress that way? Which is, I see a lot of people do. Mostly, so, or you just you start judging people. So then the purpose of this meditation is removing all of that judgment and just observing things the way they are, but noticing your urge to put a label: good, bad, pretty, ugly, beautiful, boring, not boring, or that person, oh, look, that. So as I was doing this, I was on the beach, and there weren't a lot of people or dogs or anything around, and all I was seeing really was beauty. I was seeing the dogs that were there playing, my own dog playing in the beach and running through the waves and all of that, and I was just seeing all of this beauty and fun around me. Everything was good, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm not really that judgmental. And then later on, I was at later on that evening, I was at a free concert by myself. And I sat there and I thought, oh, let me try it here. And wow, what a difference. There's all these people around. That person is drinking too much. That look at those two people sitting there, that couple not talking to each other. Why are they not having fun?
Yeah, all day long.
I'm like, oh my God, this is what is going through my head when I'm walking through space. And it's constant duality, not right and wrong and not good and great and all of this stuff and judgmental. And then I really sunk into this meditation and really started taking this out of the picture, or out of letting my mind just accept what is. Oh, the peace that came and the enjoyment of the concert was magnificently different.
Right.
So, and that was I turned a walking meditation into a sitting meditation. I was just sat there with my beer and listened to the music and stopped judging and just appreciated what was there and accepted what was there.
Yeah. And, I will say that I've practiced non-judgment a long time, but I'm still judgmental. But we're often the most judgmental of ourselves. And, especially the need to be right, the need to fix everybody else, the need to change or control conditions, especially in relationships. Where did you learn that? Where did you get the idea that was good? What's good and bad, and acceptance. So being non-judgmental, that's a really great way to walk through a day. Sit down and write, or write down everything you've judged in a day and say, wow, I can stop judging everything, or listen to this meditation. That's a powerful practice. The more you do that, the more accepting of others you become, and the more accepting of yourself you become, because, we are being in that's a much easier way to live, allowing everybody just to be who they are, to do what they want and experience what they want. As a healer, that's always been one of my challenges is, I learned to be an energy healer. And sometimes when I'm with a person, my thoughts will go to the fact that I see something, an emotion or an illness that needs attention. And, so I have to balance, like, is this person really needing me to help them? Or is it my need to control and fix others so that I can feel better? So, I got to the place where I would stop and just wait and allow them to ask for help if they need it. I don't go around healing everybody.
Rescuing people.
Right. Because that has been my goals in life, is to fix people that are broken. And yet I have a new goal, is to allow the broken people or the people that want to explore that, just to explore it. So I have a new identity around that now. And
you use the term broken people, but I don't think you see them as broken people.
No, I don't. I see the beauty in them, and I see that this is their path and their choice.
Yeah. We're all on our own path, right?
It's like I see their aura. For instance, I was with a girl the other day, and I know that her liver's not working. And I was with another person recently, and I saw that. It's like it's just a knowing, but it's also it's part of their body, and I see it. And it's like very obvious to me, well, this little thing could help them. And it's not necessarily me, but you need to make a change in your life. And, but that's their choice, so I stopped. I was running around when I first got trained and was trying to heal everybody. And one of the people that I healed, it was really funny. Well, not funny, but.
And this is ego that you're talking about, because
Yes,
is ego.
My ego was,
right?
I can save others. I'm here to save everybody. And
Right.
And this girl that I did a healing on, I insisted, and she got a little better. And she looked at somebody the other day and said, Tammy wants me to heal. And I was like, yeah, thank you. Tammy wants me to heal, so she will feel better. So, I mean, it's my ego. And I had to, was I wanting to be superior, or was I wanting, anyway, it's just part of my identity, my ego. And I had to let that go. And we talked a little bit briefly about the ego death. It's never completely gone, but you can definitely soften it by questioning your judgments, because I was judging other people as wrong for living the way they chose to live,
Right. And the individuation process includes reconciling all of that you're talking about. It's like, okay, I am a healer, and I have no business stepping into someone else's life and deciding what they need.
That's right.
And I would be much better served to practice my craft and allow the ones who are matching my vibration come to me, or be somehow we connect naturally through a process of, they want something that I have and I want something that they have. Is that what I'm?
Yes.
So that would be the balance of your true nature. Your truth is that you're a healer. Your ego says, I must reach out and heal as many people as I can. And that would include the ones that I see that need healing, that don't know they need healing.
Right.
Yeah. And that is the toughest thing as a healer. I go through it myself. I'm my brother's comes to my mind right now. There's so much suffering there, and I have to really hold back. And what I've noticed is that the more I hold back, the more he comes to me.
Right.
And if I intentionally push to get him to do something like meditation or whatever, the more he pulls back. So I've and what is there for me, the learning that's there for me is to lean in when I feel strong inspiration to lean in, but otherwise, and when it really comes from a loving place and not from an ego place.
Yeah.
Like
and that's it's their choice to eat or drink or feel the way they want to feel. And being a light worker means bringing light to everyone and seeing them in the best possible light. So it's not necessarily running around and fixing everybody. It's and then it's allowing people that really resonate with you to ask you for help, and then you go ahead and do it. And that's coaching. Like if, like I could, I mean, I can recommend coaching to people. And if you're on the awakening journey, coaching really works. And it's the reason is that there are hidden parts of you don't understand. And, everyone will wake up when they transition or die. So you don't have to wake everybody up, or you don't have to heal everybody. You only work with the people that are on the path, that want to work with you and want to coach. And lots of people do want coaching, and lots of people do, you don't have to change. It's all about really learning to accept yourself is really what healing is, and what coaching is. It's going inside. And that was Jung's practice. He also practiced creating mandalas. And
Mandalas.
Yes. So he studied Oriental alchemy. And what he was finding is there were similar things that people were creating through his work. And some of them were like this flower, and the flower represents a lot of things. But so his own personal practice was creating this beautiful art and this mandalas. So when you're creating something, writing, music, or art, you're expressing your true feelings. So he would create he did this to heal himself, because he struggled as a psychotherapist, probably with the idea of he needed to help everybody. Excuse me. And the mandala practice. So I've done a few mandalas since I was reading a couple of weeks ago, because I love to play with color. So color represents certain things. The symbols represent things, but it's a lot of different images and shapes. So you really can do them as elaborate as you want, or you can do them just simple.
Get chills. This is exciting. I've never heard this concept. But combining color and symbol, because everything has its own vibration. And if you're creating, what you're saying is that you're creating from, how did you describe it? Your
inner self. So
your inner self.
So he's got this book called The Red Book. And so I was looking at the images, and it's kind of squares and circles and different shapes, but it's, some of them will draw you in. But the practice of creating these art mandalas, and that's a, Oriental Chinese, he studied Chinese alchemy. And he was finding that these patterns naturally occur, and they're blocks of information. So we know geometric patterns, like the Merkaba or angelic symbols. And, I'm sort of drawn to it because I like magic, and there's a lot of, you can create a talisman. So for me, one of the things that I do is I set an intention. I want to feel compassion or whatever. So then I draw these symbols, I draw them out, and I just use a little notebook, and I color it, whatever color I feel. And this is one way that I can have a conversation with my inner voice and understand it. Because, colors, music, writing, all of these practices are all internal messages, because we've really not learned to go inside and listen to ourselves. But it's a practice to go inside. And, so you can look at different shapes of mandalas and draw them, or, a lot of them are flowers or whatever you want to draw. I like to draw trees and different things. So that's a practice. But creating any type of anything is a meditative practice, because you're not really thinking when you're engaging your left brain. So art, visualization, and you can empower strengthen your beliefs with feelings. So I do it. That's kind of how I do it, is I will think of a feeling or an emotion that I want to express, and if you have a lot of dark emotions, you might want to do some dark mandalas and then shift to light mandalas. What does it feel like to feel the light of source within me? What does love feel like?
Isn't that more directive than
Well, it is. It
inspired?
is. Well, it is.
So you should
I
choose, or you
I
should
I
just
do
allow
both.
what to come to the surface?
Yeah, you can do both.
Oh,
You can.
okay. Yeah.
It's not. Well, your practice is unique and designed by you.
Right. Have you read the book Creative Act by Rick Rubin? Do you know
No,
who Rick Rubin is?
I don't know if I haven't.
Music producer, really the greatest music producer ever. He's done more genres and more bands than anybody, and he recently wrote a book called The Creative Act, and it's really about this. And when he is producing music with a band, or an artist, um, or creating art in any way, he talks about the same thing, that it's not about the audience. It's about your creative process. It's about your creative, what comes out of you and authentically. And it's exactly what you're talking about um is when, because he talks about when an artist is creating for the audience, thinking about, okay, what is the audience going to want, and then now I will create that. That is an unnatural process
Mhm.
of creativity.
Well, I feel like, well, I've always just created art and I paint. So, but here's the thing, you design it your way. So, when you are going to do a creative process, you can read that book, or look at, videos about that, but you're expressing yourself.
Right.
So it's just an expression, and you use, and I would say, think of a time like from the ages of 7 to 14 in particular, and the things that you like to do. Was it writing, art, play an instrument, dance, any kind of creative, artistic thing you can imagine, drama, acting, and think of that, and then go do that. Whether it's art journaling, uh, don't create it for any reason other than you and what you're trying
Yeah.
to express.
Right. But therein lies a mantra for living without ego also,
Mhm.
because it's about, being your authentic self. If you, whatever you do, you're creating. You go out in the world and you can create joy, you can create uh, chaos, you can create whatever you want to create. But if you're creating from yourself as opposed to doing it for someone else, there's a big difference there. And yeah, and I think that's the point you're making, is that it needs to be your authentic self expression. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
That is what I'm saying, because um, to merge the ego, and that was Jung's work, as my understanding, is to merge with source, merge the cosmic with the internal, so you're going from the idea of separation and converging. So you're beginning to go within and you stop looking without for your emotions.
You're right.
Your identity, your needs, really everything we need. We don't need anything that we don't have, but we can create more by going within. And that is the way that you transcend the ego and heal anything that's not healed. And his practices are powerful. And I've been doing it my whole life. I wouldn't say that I followed Jung.
Right.
Because that was one of the first things I did when I retired was I started taking art classes and I started creating, and I didn't like any of the rules. I started making art that was unusual and not, and I was really just doing it for me. And then I started getting messages and a lot of angels were in them. And I was like, why do I always paint these angels and different things? But painting for me is a meditative practice, and like walking in nature. And I'll say this is also a practice that someone can practice. I went for a walk this morning, and I was looking at the trees and the sun. And so what you can do is learn to visualize. And this is a creative process. So you're imagine yourself tall like the trees, and your ego is small, and you can create a cartoon character or an ant character or something real small. These little ants are running around, or these little characters are running around, but you're tall and big and powerful. And your true self is that. It is strong, it's powerful, but your ego sort of keeps you small. And that is what you created your identity with. And as you move through the ego, start to question it. And if you see that you're judging, create a little character that's the judging character and make it small. And then but it's part of you. So these little characters are running around. I'm the judgmental person. I'm the critic. I am the one that's got to fight. I'm the one who's got to be right. So you imagine that you're tall and big and strong and powerful. And yet these ego parts of you are just parts of you, and just allow them to be, and shine a bright light on yourself. Look at the sun and be powerful. And the energy of source is strong and powerful, and your ego is part of you. But every label that you give yourself, start to question it. Is this who I really am? Am I shy? Am I, or, all these things, start to question them, and just look at that part of you as a little small piece of who you are, and understand that you're really a lot bigger and stronger and more powerful, and you can shine your light. If you will start to practice the disillusion of the ego. But it will not go away, but you can make it small. And that's one way to do it.
Yes. And paradoxically, the reason that we are creating our persona with all this ego is to become bigger. And really what we need to do is let it go to become bigger.
Yes. Diminish it.
Because it's binding. It's binding to hold on to ideas and control. and hold on to the idea that I am right and that person's wrong, and hold on to perspectives that my perspective is the correct one and yours is not the correct one.
I wrote down
And
some.
we're being shown that throughout our world now, with all of the
We are.
divisiveness and the fighting
Yes.
going on like that. Yeah.
And what you fight against or demonize grows and has power. And you don't want to
Hmm.
give your power to that. Your
Right.
power is internal. It's not
Yeah.
external. And fear
Resistance.
is, something that you need to just understand is there. My ego's here to keep me safe, but okay, thank you for keeping me safe, but I want to go kayaking in the ocean, and I know there are sharks, but I'm going to go anyway. So just
Yeah.
thank it, and it will kind of dissolve. So learning to trust the universe is a practice.
Hmm.
You have everything you need. You can create anytime. You're a magician, you're a wizard, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you get into the neutral state, things that will flow into your life will just come in magically. Um, there were some questions. So here were a couple of questions. Where am I controlling, or have or feel that I need to have power over others? Um, where do I question my life mistakes as failures and not understand that they were for my growth and expansion? Like, question, am I labeling that I'm a failure, or self criticism or defenses? Um, where what conflicts or patterns do I see in my past where I needed to be right, um, or I had to, what triggers or repeating patterns are present in my life?
Hmm.
Um, where do I need to be superior? Where am I comparing my life to others because I am unique? Um, we talked a lot about judging. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
what type of judging am I doing to myself and others?
Hmm.
Understanding that their path is perfect and their perspective is too. What emotions am I feeling, and what do I need to prove? Do I need to be right, or do I need to be happy? um how does this part of my ego help my relationships? And when have I
Or hurt them.
experienced yes, when have I experienced envy, jealousy, comparison, and how can I cultivate compassion for myself and others? um if I've gotten constructive feedback in the past, how did I feel, and why? Am I afraid of change? Understanding that change is the nature of the universe. We're constantly changing. So these are some questions that you can journal on that will help you focus what part of the ego is forming my identity. And usually you're going to find that that's what's holding you back from doing things that you really want to do.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah. Being stuck. Sure.
that part of us,
Ego is a place of stuckness sometimes.
so those were the questions that I answered all of them, and I felt like they were really powerful.
Hmm.
So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
I just really appreciate the opportunity to get creative here and try to share something that might help people.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah,
Well,
that's,
hopefully it will help
I'm
people.
grateful for my days and grateful for this podcast and
Yes,
knowing you.
focusing on gratitude, and compassion for yourself, that
Mhm.
and allowing your life to kind of unfold naturally, saying yes to more.
Mhm.
I see your dog's back. Hi.
Oh, she just woke up. Yeah, she can always sense when things are winding down on my calls, and
Okay.
she gets ready to come over for some love.
Well, that's sweet. You got the
Yeah.
built-in love. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll end the call then. And I hope
All
this was
right.
helpful for some people.
Me too.